Hey, I'm Nick Von Brack, and this is the Record Podcast. I'm going to have to start off with some apologies here. So, as you can tell, for those of you who notice or even care, this is coming in a day late. But, I've got good excuses. I can list them off. Yesterday was just a crazy day, and I was not able to edit the episode and get it out in time. But came down to another one of those coming down to the wire situations. Didn't have any interviews lined up, and was actually just going to roll out a little mini episode, making up stuff on the fly and just filling in something, but had a last minute savior come in the final hour to do an interview with me, and this is what that interview is. So this is my new best friend, Sam Pura. He is a producer and engineer out of the LA area, Oakland area, and he's done a bunch of really cool, he's been a part of a bunch of cool projects. I just talked to Rue from Heavy Heavy Low Low a couple weeks ago, so this is hot on the heels of that. But so he recorded Heavy Heavy Low Low. He's done stuff for The Story So Far, Sabretooth Zombie. We talk about a lot of the stuff he's been into, but if you're not familiar with him, just jump online, do the old Google search, and you'll find all the stuff he's been involved in. But talk about all those projects. We talk about just recording in general, do's and don'ts of bands in the studio, his favorite roles in the process, mixing, mastering. He does it all. He's got his studio is Panda Studios, and go and check that out too. And if you're a band looking to record, you should definitely consider him. After talking to him and listening to the stuff he's been involved in, I wish I could have turned back time and had Dr. Manhattan in the studio with him. He's got a good ethos about the process, about his role in it, and how to get the best possible product out. And it's just a cool, laid-back dude, and puts out good shit. So we get into all of it. But again, apologies for the late episode. Cut me some slack, all right? All right. So here's my interview with Sam Pura. Yeah. What's up, man?
Look at us. We're being friends, dude.
You can't see me, though, can you?
I can't, dude. But I don't think that really matters, you know?
Let me fix it. Let's be friends who can see each other.
I would love that, dude. I would love nothing more than to be friends who could see each other.
Uh-oh. What am I doing here?
I see. There you are. Look at you, dude, on the SM7, being a fucking badass, dude.
It was the one thing I did professional about this podcast. Everything else is in shambles.
There you go. So I have mine going into Pro Tools, so I could just send it to you afterwards, and you can import it or whatever.
That's fine. That, like I said, that's even more professional than I even anticipate.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's fucking awesome.
And it's creeping me out because you look like multiple people that I know in my life. So
Who's
it's like
that?
I'm just talking to buddies I know.
Who am I?
Who are you?
Yeah, who do I look like?
You look like partially Andrew Morrison, who is the band that I was in, Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
He is the keyboardist / percussionist / other singer.
Got it. He's the cool guy.
He's the cool guy.
Yep.
So you kind of look like him, and you also, funny enough, look like the guy when I left the band who started playing drums for them, Matt Parrish, who was a drummer. So some kind of mind meld of those two faces. That's what you kind of look like to me.
So you were a drummer in the band?
I was a drummer in the band, yeah.
I can't believe I didn't get to tour with you. We didn't get to be friends.
I know. So I've only heard much about you through the Heavy Heavy Low Low dudes. Yeah. But an endorsement from them is good by me.
Well, that's cool. I appreciate that.
But you'll have to give me the education, because all I really know of you is their stuff. The stuff
I'll give you everything you need. First off, I need to get a grinder so I can roll this joint here. 1 second.
All right, go for it.
You're hanging out. You're cool. You're being friends too.
Oh, who's in the back? Who's chilling?
So that's this guy Robbie. He sings in this band Fighting Sides. They're from LA.
Okay.
So they're here hanging out right now. man.
So, am I interrupting the shit that's going on right now?
You're not interrupting shit, dude. We're just being best friends, dude, you know?
Okay, fair enough.
They're here for the week, so, you know, they're making some jams, dude, you know? You know how it goes.
So what is your setup there? Is that your whole studio? Like, what am I looking at?
All right, so I'm in my second control room right now.
Okay.
So we got two of them because I found this place and I moved in and like made a 1,200 like square feet studio out of just like one big control room and one big live room.
Okay.
And so then what we did after that is like a couple years later, my neighbor moved out. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to take over his unit. So we just combined both units. So we have two studios. So we basically have an A room and a B room.
Well, that's sweet.
It's fucking sick. So I'm in my B room right now being best friends.
So the whole spot, that's just that whole place is Panda Studios.
Yep. Yeah. So it's 2,500 square feet.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is the 7th Panda Studios location.
Oh, so how often do you move? You just pick up and get out of there every year or something?
Yeah. No. So I've been doing this like 14 years now. So I guess the first iteration started in my my bedroom at my mom's house, like when I was like 18.
Sure.
And so then second one, which is where we did Turtle Nipple, was in Oakland, like in the fucking sketchest part of Oakland. It's making me smile. So I was there for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was like subleasing like an existing like recording studio / like live work facility, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
sure.
I was living there as well, which is a total fucking nightmare. I'll never.
Was there a working bathroom at least?
Yeah. Total working bathroom, 2-bedroom. Everything was cool.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Just ultimately like living where you work. There's no time for your mind to shut off.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
Yeah, it totally sucked in that aspect. But it was cool. So that was the second one. Then the third one was a temporary practice space right next to where I'm at currently, like right down the street.
Yeah.
So I was in there. Then I went to a studio in San Francisco and subleased Third Eye Blind's old studio space, which was hell of expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so then that was like cool for a couple records, and then I realized how stupid expensive it was trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
So then from there, like shared a spot with a dude down the street here. And then I was like, I should just build my own place. So that's why we built this place. So I guess, is that the 6th or the 7th one? Whatever.
Shit, I lost count, but that's pretty sweet.
So I've been here like 7 years now. So
nice.
I mean, but it was the first place that it was an empty building. We just walked in and did it up.
So you're a handyman. You can get in there and build walls and do the whole thing.
Yeah, or I can hire like home slices to do that for me if I can't do those specific tasks. But yeah, like
fair enough.
Yeah. So I mean, I try to we made all of our own like acoustic material. I made a bunch of my own gear here. Like
nice.
I try to be super DIY because 1, it's budget friendly, and 2, it's hella fun. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you said you've been doing it for just 14 years?
Yeah, pretty much, man. Kind of crazy.
And I can't imagine off the top of your head, but how many records does that put you in being involved with? Like over 100, over 50? I mean, what are we talking about?
I mean, definitely like over 100 things. I mean, but it's like EPs, singles, full lengths, all of that. Definitely like hundreds of different artists. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like definitely we're in the hundreds range for artists and albums.
So what was the first, I guess, record you were a part of then?
I mean, I was in a band that like played locally with Heavy, and so.
Oh, okay. What band was that?
It was an Incubus ripoff band called Nebulous.
Okay, sure.
There you go. Yeah, I was really into Incubus and Papa Roach those days.
Hey,
we even had a fucking turntablist in our band. That's how sick it was. I'm not even lying. We literally did.
I don't think you're lying. I think that's going the whole way. I think if you're gonna do it, you got to have that.
Yeah. So that was a necessary thing for a minute. But like when I was playing in that band, I started like recording some of the bands in the area out of my garage. And so then those bands like would have a cool, impressive demo, and it was during the time when MySpace was the shit.
Yeah.
So
sure.
if you had like if you had a hella sick demo where like, you're just going through bands and all of a sudden the song comes on and it's loud on MySpace, like people were stoked. You know what I mean? So then
That's
you're
how
like,
you get signed.
yeah. So, oh fuck, man, who did this? Well, go to the top 8, and then there's my fucking studio on the top 8, right? So I was killing it on MySpace on those days.
Yeah.
And so, Heavy just being a local band, my homie Jihad, who like ran their label, 12 Gauge, he was like, you should do an EP with them. So I was like, all right, you guys should come through and like do an EP. And I remember Chris Fritter being like, yeah, we don't have any money. Like, how much would it cost us? I was like, just buy me an SM57 and I'll do your EP for you.
That's awesome.
That fucking EP, that's the one that got them signed. I did that like for $100 in my fucking bedroom at my mom's house over like the course of like a week.
Wait a second. You got an SM57 for $100?
Yeah.
I'm more surprised at that than at the price that you recorded them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sorry, 150 or whatever the hell you want to call it. Yeah. What are the two?
Nice,
so, yeah,
dude.
That was the so like Heavy was the first like project that actually put me on the map, so to speak.
Yeah.
Whereas like I was doing all just like stupid local bands before that, and that's how Heavy like found out about me, was through the local bands,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny too because I before we just toured with them the one time on the Stay Weird tour. It was us, them, and Fear Before the March of Flames, and but we knew Casey Bates because he had mixed our record, and then we went and recorded our second record with him. So then I had
with him and Conley, right?
Yeah. So I had Casey on the podcast, and before I got to talk to those guys about recording with them, so it was great because I had Rue on like a couple weeks ago or something,
which was a great episode, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. And I just loved hearing his response, being like, "Yeah, like I didn't realize he thought we were so weird."
Yeah, totally.
And I loved hearing both sides, like him, like Casey being freaked out, and Rue just being like, "Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know, it wasn't so bad."
Yeah, it's funny because the way that I knew of Casey was like. That was like my first time, like, making a cool record with a band who then gets signed. And of course, like, they get swept up by the management, and the management's like, you're going to like do your record with this big guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, this guy, like, they're going to do it with this guy. Like, whatever. That's kind of a disappointment. I wish I could do it. And like, I remember just being bummed when I heard the end result, because it was like, sounded like ultimately he didn't really know what he was getting into. They didn't really know what they were getting into, you know what I mean? And like everyone was just like, they're all just kind of winging it, you know what I mean? So it was what it was, but ultimately like I'm happy to have made more shit with him after that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it speaks to how good you were because they went back to you. So.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, ultimately, like, my skill has always been like being a silent member of a band, if that makes sense. More so than like the guy who just records your band. Like, I make like lots of like artistic decisions and shit like that, and so it's like like certain bands like I mean, Story So Far would be a good example. Heavy would be a good example. This band Hundredth would be a good example. Are all like bands who like embrace whatever I say in the room as like another dude in the band, as opposed to like the dude just recording them. You know what I mean?
That's like the best experience.
Yeah, totally. So those are the most rewarding, at least.
Yeah, because you're totally invested. If the record does well, you're super stoked, and if it doesn't, like you're the other members, so you're bummed that you couldn't have done more. But I think that's the best kind of product. And I think in essence, that's kind of what we were thinking we were getting into with him, and I think he was a good role. But I think if I would go back, like listen to the albums you did, I think it would have been really cool to record with you, because I think you got like even just listening to their album, and Rue was telling me when they did Turtle Nipple with you, like or no, maybe even the EP, just that you guys set up tons of different rigs, like had all the time in the world and just like made everything sound awesome. Yeah, exactly. Like one verse is this amp, another verse is this bass and this amp. Everything's totally fucking different. Yeah. Yeah, like, and I love that.
Thanks, man. There's one song on that record where I remember we recorded Chris's drums in my bathroom, and my bathroom like I don't even know. I'll have to dig up a photo of it, but like you could not fit a drum kit in there. So like his kick drum was like directly against the wall, like and like touching it, and I had the mic just like sitting in it and shit like that.
See, I love
but
that
it was
shit.
but it was like we specifically did that to be hella punk. You know what I mean? So we
Yeah.
could get like a more fucked up drum sound instead of just like a traditional one. You know?
That's perfect. That's essentially what we did for our first record, was a lot of shit like that. And for the second one, since we had no real money for it, we just kind of had to do it like as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
Like we had to drive ourselves out to Seattle, so we recorded the drums out by us, and then it was just like a whole kind of different process. But I think ideally, like the last thing we did was an EP where we recorded live, and it was all just like, let's just get the tones and fuck it, let's not even deal with it. Like that was like, those sessions are like my absolute favorite to
That's cool as fuck.
To hear about, to be involved in. Like, I mean, for every band, I mean, I know not every band's the same, but I feel like for bands, you go in, you want to do the like standard recording thing where everyone records separately and it sounds professional, but then the further you get away from it, you're like, no, let's just all get in the room, let's get that energy and make it sound fucked up.
No, totally. I think that like one of the things that I always find like kind of as like a consistent disconnect is that I'm always expecting these bands to come in and be like, all right, man, so we have this like vision for how we want things to sound. Because like if you didn't record Heavy right, that band would just sound stupid as fuck. You know what I mean? Like they would sound like really sloppy and like, what like is this? You know what I mean? Like, but if you do it in the right way, then you can hear that ultimately their attitude is like, we don't give a fuck, and like it's cool as opposed to amateur. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think like it's really hard for a lot of bands to get in a room and make sound and be themselves because they're not really sure of what they actually sound like yet. They just know what band they're trying to sound like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like you take a band like ISIS, and if you were to be like, all right, let's just record the drums and then we'll do guitars, like after that, like you would have fucked up that entire vibe of that band. You know what I mean? Like, or something like Neurosis. You know what I mean? Like you just you would destroy that fucking band. You know what I mean?
So I guess, how do you handle bands hitting you up and being like, yeah, we love Turtle Nipple, like make us sound like that? Like, do you tell them no, like that's not how I work, or do you start like, or is that like at least a good jumping off point to know kind of what you want, how you want to deal with it?
Well, if a band hit me up and was like, we want to sound like Turtle Nipple, I'd be like, fuck yeah, like I can't wait to do a punk band again. But instead, everyone who hits me up is like, we want to sound exactly like the story so far, which is like,
gotcha.
Got it. You want to be like one of the most talented pop punk bands in the game right now, and you want to sound like that band for a fraction of the cost, for a fraction of the talent, and less time. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not possible. You know what I mean? But if you're like, I just want to sound like a punk and fucked up version of myself, then it's like, hell yeah, by all means, let's get in here and throw up mics and like let's distort fucking sounds and fuck shit up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on like pre-production stuff? Like, do you like hanging out at practice? Do you want them to come through, or do you want to see a show? Like, how do you get the vibe of a band before you have them in?
I mean, it really like you know, a band like Heavy and a band like Story so far, I don't know if you're like familiar with Story at all, but like they're like polar opposites in terms of how they would work, you know? So one is about like how are the songs and the songwriting, and the other one is like what's the energy like, and like what's the like Heavy is like improv like 50% of the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like improv noise. Whereas like other bands are writing like specific guitar melodies and like harmonies, and like they're trying to follow and sound big with the drums. So like when it comes to like a band like, you know, with songwriting and shit, then I definitely like to be involved with pre-pro and get down to like changing drum patterns, changing song structures, changing tempos, adding new guitar riffs, changing ideas. Like I just try to be, you know, best friends and fix up the song the way that I think would be fucking sick, and hopefully the other dudes are stoked on those ideas. And if they're not, then whatever, we'll fucking move on. You know what I mean? But there's been like there's a band that I just did recently called Gardens. They're basically like kind of like a brand new Pixies type of band, like loud,
Okay.
soft, loud, soft. So like they had a sound, and it was very much like when they played in a room together, it was like obvious what their sound was and what we were gonna do with their songs. You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
opposed to like really breaking it down, like riff by riff and structure by structure. It was like, oh, I get the vibe. Like you want to like build it up and then go really loud here and then go really quiet here. So we're gonna have some really fucked up like roomy guitar tone. I get it. I get it. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what, I guess, and I know this is like a super broad, hard to answer question, but like what in your mind is like your favorite part of the process? Is it that like getting the vibe of a band? Is it just the final product sounding awesome? Is it like what like at what point in the process are you like, all right, this is my zone?
It's really like when it's engineering and producing. That's really my
Yeah.
fucking goddamn shit. And so, and that's I guess like I love mixing, but mixing for me when I'm producing a record is a total different thing because the way I'm mixing is by getting the sound right at the source. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like when I'm like mixing someone else's record that they send me, it gets a little bit more frustrating because like my hands are tied and I'm just like,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm basically like I always call plugins Instagram filters. I'm fucking with Instagram filters and seeing which one is gonna make my color balance
Right.
look right, like
Yeah.
as opposed to just like setting up the shot and getting it right. You know?
Right, right. Yeah,
So
that is like a film way, like a video way of doing that. That's awesome. I like that.
absolutely, I love Stanley Kubrick. Like he's like one of my like I really I try to parallel a lot of Stanley Kubrick analogies with what we do to make people understand. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think, and I guess thinking about even just the few times, like I said, the few things I've been involved with that were recorded, I feel like the part of it that seems most frustrating for an engineer or producer is like mixing and having the band in the room, because it's like, look, I can't like have you guys like let me do my thing, like go for a walk or something, because
Yeah.
it's like it's almost like. So I do like videography stuff for work. So if
Yeah.
I'm editing and someone's watching over my shoulder, I'm like, you got to get out of here. Like I can't have you hovering. So
And
like.
I'm
I
kind
feel
of
like it's
I'm kind of the opposite in that way. Like I
Yeah.
really like having the dudes in the room with me because
Okay.
it helps. Like I can turn around and just be like, "What's up? Is that cool?" And then they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's sick."
Okay.
Otherwise, like if they're annoying, I just tell them to shut up. I'm not a problem. Like, but I have a bigger issue with doing stuff remote and then sending like it's like I'll reamp an entire record. Like someone will send me a record and they're like it's all DI guitars and they want me to reamp it, so I reamp it. I get a great tone and then I send it to them and they're like, yeah, just like the lead, like the main guitar tone is just like too heavy. Like, can we just dial back the gain? It's like, all right, that's another day of reamping.
Yeah,
Like that would
right.
have like everything would have been fixed if you were just sitting in the room with me and being like, that
Right.
sounds sick. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it depends, but I really do like having like I do like having the team be involved the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. And and again, another broad kind of question, but like, what's your ideal kind of setup to record? Is it just a small band? Is it like a big band? Is it a heavy band? Like where do you feel is like your best kind of situation for that?
As long as they got drums and some guitars, like I'm fucking stoked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my main like I think a lot of the main reason that people come to record with me is because my drum sound.
Yeah.
Because like I'm really big about getting natural sounds and not like
Yeah.
using samples and having my shit sound a little bit more raw. So
Yeah.
that gets a little bit more problematic when I have a band who's just like, we want to sound like Black Dahlia Murder. It's like, all right, well, like then we should have just programmed your drums then instead of me
Right,
fucking
right.
like distorting room mics and making shit sound trashy, you know?
Right,
So
right.
yeah, like it only like I'm a big drum guy, drum eccentric guy. I play guitar, so I love fucking guitar tones. I've like become so obsessed with bass because I'm so obsessed with how like drums and guitars need a sound that bass is like the connector between them.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
a good drum and guitar sound unless your bass like puzzle piece fits in perfectly. So
Yeah.
then from there it's like, all right, now you got a sick like song. Then the vocals become the hella fun fucking part. Like that's where I
Yeah.
like really get into shit. So I mean, it really just comes down to as long as like the band has a good song, and ultimately if we're working around with like some drums, it's hella cool. If it's just like some simple violin stuff without anything else on it, I'd be kind of bored. You know what I mean? Like I would like to hear a full band in a song. Ultimately, like the answer is as long as it's a good song, I'm down and I'm stoked to work on it. You know what I mean?
So I guess as a man in your field, in your profession, what's the most annoying thing a band can do coming to you? Is it just wanting too much and too little time with too little money? Is there like what one thing is like? Look, you at least have to have this part. Like, don't, because you know every band, yeah, they'll hear a good record you do. They'll come to you and be like, look, we want to put it out next week, and we got $10, and we want it to sound like that record. And you're like,
Yeah.
whoa.
I think ultimately the thing that 85% of the bands lack is vision.
Yeah.
They have like no idea what they're really doing other than like wanting to be in a band and emulate things that they're inspired by. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so that's where like I'm a dude who wants to make really fucking cool art, and I like believe like that a full length album is an entire, you know, it's an entire piece, you know. It's got a story, it's got a vibe, and I really wish more bands would have more like concepts and more like, you know, it's like I'll ask basic questions like, what's your track order? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And that's like the last thing possible. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I wish bands would write songs being like, this is going to be a track 3, and then it's going to have to go into a vibe that's like this, like, and those are the records that like are hella fun to make and are the shit, because it's like, you have a clear vision. I know what we're after. But like when bands are just coming in and basically like, hey, create me into something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know what I'm trying to do other than I like these bands and like these are my guitar riffs. Like, is this cool?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So ultimately, I just wish the world was inspiring more people to be like songwriters and artists and think about full concepts and think about like the longevity of the art they're creating, as opposed to just wanting to play shows in their band, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And what, so now that I'm looking at this list of all these albums you've been a part of, I guess, and I'm not going to make you pick between your kids or anything, but one that does stand out to me, actually, and not that I know it musically, but I know our old manager, I think, is involved with this band, the Limousines. It said you did something with their record?
Yeah. So I used to, like, the first thing I ever did was like being a guitar tech for this band called Strata, which everyone's like, everyone goes, oh, I think I've heard of that band, and I go, no, you've heard of Sparta, not. And then they're like,
gonna say that.
They're like, oh yeah, I've definitely heard of that band. But that's always hella funny. But basically, I was a guitar tech for them, and the singer for that band, he started playing with my friend Gio. Because I showed him some songs, and I was like, you should jam with this guy. He's cool as fuck. And then he did, so I recorded some of their like initial stuff together, and like that was about it. Like they're two homies. They're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I saw, like I said, with our little bit of touring with Heavy, I remember seeing a shitload of Sabretooth Zombie stickers.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Sabretooth is like one of the coolest punk bands ever. And the only issue is that they never really toured. So like they definitely like have like, you know, they would every year would come out and like make a brand new like record with me. And so they have like too much material that no one can really digest immediately. You know what I mean? Like, and because they unfortunately weren't able to really tour and like support that and create the buzz that they would have really had, you know?
Yeah.
So like, for example, like Ceremony and Trash Talk were all like playing shows with Sabretooth Zombie when Sabretooth Zombie was like the fucking shit. You know what I mean? So like, if they had like kept it up, they would have been like still as active and as cool as those bands.
Nice. Oh, and shit, I forgot that you did the Blowout, their new record.
Oh yeah, exactly, with Breadman. Well,
yeah,
I mastered that. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I just listened to that like whenever it came out, like a week or two ago.
Yeah,
It's
man.
super good, man.
Fucking great band.
Yeah.
Great band.
Yeah. So you're set up to do everything there. You're set up to mix, record, and master.
Yeah, exactly. I do it all.
Because I know a lot of times like mastering gets sent off, and I know some engineers don't really want to get involved with the mastering side.
Yeah,
What is that side of it for you?
So I used to be there's this thing called that's very important, a saying that is very important for people to learn and to really start applying to their lives. It's don't believe the hype. You know what I mean? So like very quickly going out on tour, I learned that the hype of like being a rock star was immediately fucking non-existent. You know what I mean?
That's why
like,
I'm doing this podcast.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Pull the curtain back on all this shit.
Exactly. You know, you're just a fucking dude. You know what I mean? No one gives a fuck about you. You're just like, you think you're hella badass when you're in a fucking bus, but then really you just realize that it's an RV that you're paying way too fucking much for. You know what I mean? Like, and so
true.
it's like, you know, the hype. Don't believe the hype. So
Yeah.
basically, the hype on mastering is like, I always was just like, all right, so I'm strictly this like noob working out of my room. Like, I'm just fucking figuring it out as I go. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so from there, I got, you know, I became really into engineering, really into fucking getting recording tones and always mixing my own stuff. So I would be like, I want it to sound much better than it currently does. So I'm going to send it to a hell of cool mastering engineer to master this and like fill in the gap and bring it to the next level for me. So I did that. Like, I've done that my entire career. But recently, and this is the weirdest thing ever, but like recently, like, I mean, every time I mix, I'm mastering as well, so that there's like a reference, you know, of like a volume and loudness and vibe. But basically, like, I'll just send it without the mastering to these other masters, and I'll be like, yo, here's my reference. You go ahead and match that and like make it sound better than like what I have it.
Yeah.
And basically, every fucking band chooses my master over them. So I've become like my favorite mastering engineer at this point because like the dudes who like are the shit ultimately just aren't getting chosen, and like it just comes down to like shit's getting blown up. It's like a little too distorted. The balance becomes a little whack, and it's like, okay, well, that sounds better in mine. We're just gonna go with mine. So like that happened on like. That's happened with some story stuff. Like that happened with like the new bands that I've been working with. So I've been mastering all the fucking time recently.
Nice.
So it's cool.
And you don't need, I mean, I guess this is, again, another stupid question, but you don't need, like, because I feel like whenever I've heard about mastering, it's like it's a whole facility that has all this different gear.
Yeah,
but it's
totally. I mean, it's like there's all these, like, you know, you have $200,000 speakers and like
Right,
$20,000 amps, and then you have this specific mastering console where you can like fuck with mid-side and just all this nut stuff. And it's like, all right, even with all those tools, like, why does my master in the box sound better?
Right, yeah.
Why does the band
true.
choose mine over everyone else's? Like,
Yeah.
and also like it'll always be like the quick one. Like they'll send it back louder, and I'll just turn it down to match mine, and it just sounds smaller, more distorted, and that's it. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
it's just how it's been recently.
Oh, nice. Well,
So ultimately, I've had to realize that maybe I was believing the mastering hype a little too much.
well, I think that as, I mean, and that, again, that could be just like the old way of thinking, but I think that's kind of how it was set up. Was like, okay, this is your guy that you recorded with, and then you send that off to master. Like, to my experience, it was always send it off. It was whenever it was like locally mastered, like, or the same guy would be like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could kind of do it, but I'm not really experienced. So it was always just send it off.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. I mean, because it's because like we respect the material enough to want to enlist someone else like who has more experience than us to lend their ears to the project and hopefully bring it to a point where it's going to be better and like where we want it to be, you know. But sometimes that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So on the topic of just having a band come through, just stuff that you want out of your bands, like what other things, and not even just pet peeve things, but like what's another good kind of scenario or a good situation a band can come with aside from having a vision? Is it just like, you know, I've heard great bands that have shit gear. Like, gear doesn't necessarily matter, but then there's bands that spend all their money on gear and don't write songs. So it's like,
Totally.
like, do you have good gear there? Do you just kind of enlist on, you know, we're just gonna make your shit sound good? Like, what do you use?
Ultimately, I have like, you know, I have drum sets, I have fucking multiple guitar amps, multiple guitars. I have everything. So basically, every band basically just comes here and maybe brings a guitar or like a snare drum that they like care about or something like that. and they just like prefer to use everything else that I have here. It's like, oh well, I'll just use his 5150. I have mine, but I'll just use his. Like, because most of the people that I'm recording are actually like from out of town. You know what I mean? So they're flying out or they're driving out. They're not like just local bands, which is fucking cool. So like it's cool to be able to like have all that shit ready to go for them. So I just leave it all set up. So like when they walk in, drums are set up, everything's mic'd up, it's ready to go, and like we just swap from there, you know. But yeah, like I guess to answer your question in terms of like what else can bands do, like gear, like gear doesn't really matter as long as they just like I always ask like for people to really become conscious of what they're playing and like what they're trying to do and become like be more self-aware, you know what I mean? Because like when it's like it comes down to the fact of like we're all of a sudden starting to record this and I just realized that like this dude's just wanting to play in his band and like play guitar in his band and I'm just like wanting to make Sergeant Pepper's here. I'm just like, all right, like there's like a bigger like disconnect, you know what I mean? Like I guess I should just like turn off like my thinking cap and just go through the motions of recording this dude today as opposed to like let's make a fucking awesome album, you know?
Yeah.
So ultimately, like it's like just having people be self-aware of their playing and like ready to like come in and like know what they're trying to do so that I can be like, all right, I see what you're trying to do, like I see where you're trying to go, like you should just do this instead because it would like there's a possible missed opportunity here and here and here, let's make this fucking awesome, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if they know what they're playing, then they're able to easily adapt to any new changes and stuff like that. So ultimately, like it's just like practice the shit out of your songs, know how you want to sound, know how to get that sound with your gear, and then we're gonna incorporate like our gear and we're gonna fucking ultimately make sure that we land on the right vision, you know what I mean?
Well, I think it's a thing too of, aside from just being naive, but like bands at least used to think a lot and probably still do is like, well, when we get signed to a label, that's it, it's taken care of. It's like, no, that's almost like you can't even think of it that way. Similarly, recording, you can't go, oh, we got a couple good songs, we'll go in, he'll make it sound good. Like, no, like you got to have your shit together on every step of the way, not just like, oh, they'll take care of it, take care of it.
Totally.
You gotta come with your whole, like you said, your whole vision. Like everything's pretty much ready to go, and this guy's just, or the girl, whoever, is just gonna like facilitate it.
Yep, exactly. They're the classic, oh, well, we got signed and we got a manager, so they're going to fucking take care of us. And that's when no one does anything. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
They're waiting for, like, the cog in the fucking, in the team to start moving right now, but no one's actually doing it. Yeah, so it's like, I really just want bands to, like, be like, you know, stoked on their songs, like know how to play their parts, you know what I mean, like know what they're trying to do so that when they come in, like they actually have a clear vision and we can be best friends and reach that vision together, you know what I mean?
That sounds like that should be like the tagline, like the main line on your business card or like the recording studio website, like let's just come and be best friends and make the best possible shit ever.
That's basically like this guy who literally just got here yesterday, the guitar player. He was like, just to let you know, I'm only here to be best friends, dude. Like, so
recording's like the byproduct of that. I'm just coming to hang out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's the thing too, is like a lot of people make like recording out to be so stressful. Like it's like taking a test. Oh well, like I'm about to have to like, you know, play my part, man. Like, like I should definitely not drink that beer because like I'm about to have to play my part. It's like, dude, come on, man. You should be like stoked on what you're doing, and you should be ready to like be like with confidence. I'm ready to go. I didn't do that right. I should definitely do another take of that. I know I have another one in me. I'm fucking ready to do this. Like no one does that. They're just timid. They're like, so scared. You know what I mean? It's like, what? Come on, aren't we ready to have fun? So like the dudes who are just like confident, self-aware, like those dudes are just like ready to come in and make fun fucking shit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's tough too because I think especially, well, on any level of it, but like new bands too, it's like you're thinking about all the money you're going to spend. You don't want to screw it up. Every hour means this amount of money. It's like, you start thinking, you're like, I got to go in, I got to play this part right because we got to get it mixed and we got to get it done. And
totally.
So it's hard. You already kind of have that built-in pressure, but if you can just go in and be like, focus on what it is you're trying to do, the art side of it, and like, you know what, you'll figure out how to get the rest of it done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of like another thing that I realized this a couple of years ago, maybe not even a couple of years ago, like a year and a half ago. I went to Venice and like Prague and like got out of like, you know, went to the UK for the first time and just was like so fucking inspired by all the old architecture and shit. Yeah. And it made me be like, oh man, all the shit that I've like recorded is completely irrelevant. Like no one's even gonna listen to any of this. Like I'm not making shit that even matters. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where like I've been really trying to get more into like artist development and like actually, like finding and developing people and like just working on a record and figuring out like shit on the back end, you know what I mean? So that like I'm not being paid to record a band. Instead, I'm like scouting and finding a band, and like we're gonna work it out when it releases itself and gets picked up, you know what I mean?
So does that technically make you some kind of like manager now, or what does that make you?
Yeah, I mean it's more so just like it's just like it's basically like a production gig, you know what I mean? Like I'm ultimately just like offering to produce people, you know what I mean? Just like, man, I got the facility, I got everything else, like let's just come and let's work on some songs, and like we'll just take it from there, you know?
Yeah.
Which is, it's cool, but ultimately at the same time I gotta record bands to pay bills as well too.
Sure.
So it's a little bit of a creative difference, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like getting the job done and also like doing the best you possibly can and whatever can actually happen to make the songs the best thing possible. You know what I mean? Like that costs money, and a lot of people don't have that, you know. So I'm realistic to that now.
Yeah. Yeah, are you able to, because I know a lot of from just even what I do, just in my work or even just past projects, like it's hard to say no, especially if it's a buddy, or it's like, no, all right, like we'll figure it out. Like, but then the older you get, you start to be like, no, I can't, I can't do it for that money. Like that's just not gonna happen.
No, totally. Well, thankfully, I got a fucking awesome manager who like has all those money conversations. So I choose to like stay ignorant and like not know how much I'm making per project, so I can just be stoked on everything.
Good.
You know. So as long as like. Ultimately, as long as bills are getting paid and debt is like, continuing to go down, I'm stoked,
Yeah. And I just pulled up Noise Creator's site to see if you're on here, and I did see you are on here.
Yeah, what's up?
Because I had Minardi on here, and he was telling me it was like right around the time it all happened, so I was just getting into that with him and stuff. So like, I guess I think you would be the first person. Because I don't know if I talked to Casey about this. He is, but I don't know if I don't think I talked to him about it. But like, what is your experience with doing something like this? Like, is it just another thing that gets funneled into more work you do, or is this like a separate thing to get people in?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how real can I be right now?
You could be as real as you want to be, man. Or I can edit out.
I haven't gotten any gigs from that site.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't know if anyone is, but like, I haven't gotten anything from them. I think there was like a mastering song, like a song I did for a band or something like that. But yeah, I'm not. I mean, potentially it's fucking awesome, but I don't really know if people are using it. And ultimately, like I have my own ways of contacting me. Like it doesn't have to be through that site. So I think I think people who are in the know just kind of disconnect the man in the middle and just come right to me.
Yeah. Well, either way, I guess any other avenues to get your name out there, it helps. But I always wonder, like, things like that. I guess this is the first kind of thing that I've seen like that for producers, but like, there's all kinds of bullshit things for bands. So like you put your name on a list and you're supposed to, any of the old like zines or things that you're like, oh, you got to get your name out there, got to buy an ad and all this stuff. It's like, what if this is actually even working? Like, it's good, but like, what is it doing?
Well, I would say like also in general, I think another like kind of difference is like through my experience of like making records for labels, I've really determined that I fucking hate making records for labels.
So get into that a little, like, you don't have to be specific about like a label or a band, or you can be, but like, what is, because most things I've been involved in, it's like a lot of the bands that I know are on the level we're on are just like labels like, do your thing and we'll put it out. Like labels aren't involved, but I'm sure the higher up the ladder you go, the more involved they get.
I mean, the best stuff I ever did was things that didn't have deadlines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the second you get involved into the touring circuit and the machine that is the APMAs and Warped Tour and all that kind of stuff. The value of the content goes pretty much right out the window. And it just kind of becomes like, as long as we can like make this record and get this out on time, so we can do this tour and do these things. Like it just ultimately like it. I think that like we're all in the business of creating content with value, and that whole idea gets lost when you start getting into like the machine, you know what I mean? Like and so it becomes a bummer. And like the best records I've ever done have all been stuff that like we're just like, let's fucking be best friends and let's make the best shit possible. And that's the stuff that like, really influences people to come and make records with me, because that's the stuff that like actually resonates with them because it was honest, you know what I mean? As opposed to like, it wasn't a job, it was an actual creative thing we tried to do,
Yeah. So I guess in the projects that you've been involved in, have labels like come down in the middle of it and been like, "Look, you got to do this thing," or is it mostly like I'm always curious because I haven't been on that side of it. Like, how much do labels try to butt their way into that process aside from just a due date or something, like
So
creatively?
yeah, I mean, like it's nothing like really like that. It's not like I've never had like them like make creative decisions, but it really
Yeah.
just comes down to, let's say for example, it's like, all right, we got we got this band and they're gonna book. They want 4 weeks to do a full length. It's like, okay, cool. And it's like the full length has to be done specifically on the final day so it can go to pressing so that we can have it ready to go in time before we
Right.
announce and go out on this tour. And so it's like, okay, well, so we're gonna book that right now. We're gonna agree to do this. How many songs do we have ready to go? Four out of 4 out of 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, so then we have to like ultimately write songs on the spot. You have to ultimately like plan that this organic material between 5 individuals is going to go absolutely according to plan,
Right.
and nothing is going to like stand in the way of that. And it's obviously you're going to have to cut corners. You know what I mean? And so that's
Yeah.
where it's like I don't like I guess I'm like not morally in the business of cutting corners. You know what I mean? So like
Right.
every time it happens, it just like kills me emotionally, and I'm just like I know that we could do so much better. I know like that we're
Right.
settling, so like I ultimately am just like it becomes a bummer because you're just working against a deadline and you got to get it done, and everyone has to be satisfied with the product that they like, ultimately with the end result being like, hey, we did the best we could with the tools and the time and the talent that we had, guys.
Yeah.
Like let's cheers to that, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it just feels a little demoralizing and kind of a bum out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, at the very least, like I said, I've heard just a few of the things you've been involved in. I'm gonna nose around a little bit more now, but like for each one of our albums, I can pinpoint shit that I was like, I wish the bass was up louder. Like there's always something, and
Yeah.
for the stuff I've heard from you, it's like everything sounds locked in, and like all the levels are good, and like
Yeah.
I'm not here. I mean, obviously, those bands could probably say, "Oh, we wish we would have done this instead" or whatever, but like being objective, like that shit sounds good, man.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, it's something. I mean, I obviously dedicate my life to making shit that resonates with people and that people like appreciate, and hopefully it inspires them to make cool, creative, awesome shit. And
Yeah.
that's the business that I'm in. I'm not in the business of like recording bands and getting it done. You know what I mean? I'm in the business of
Yeah.
like really trying to make something fucking awesome here. So it's just it gets lost when you get the machine involved, and it's ultimately the whole industry is suffering like because no one's buying music, but ultimately because no one's buying music, no one really cares about creating music with value.
Yeah. So we got into like the band producer side, like what to get into the like for people who are listening who are wanting to record or starting recording, like what are some, I guess if you went back to little baby Sam and you're like, look, dude, you gotta get better mics, you gotta have better gear around, like what are things that like people who are interested in it or starting like that they could do to help themselves out in in that whole role.
So the whole fucking DIY like home recording market is just fucking exploded. It's like
Yeah.
my friend set a good example of it. It's the new Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Whereas like everyone wanted to skateboard and everyone was buying skate shoes and skate apparel and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like wanting to do like home recording shit. And so
Yeah.
it's like I ultimately see it as like it's a cool opportunity for really cool shit to be made. But the also unfortunate downside is that like it's a really good opportunity for a lot of people to stop hearing really good sounding quality shit and like getting comfortable with really terrible sounding shit and like aspiring to sound like really terrible fucking fake shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like ultimately, what I would say is like if people who are like starting off and like wanting to do shit seriously, like it's basically comes down to you're gonna want some really good preamps. You're gonna want some really solid microphones. Basically, just like get the Shure drum pack, and then you can with the 57s, you can use those on vocals and guitars, and you're gonna kill and get everything fine. And basically, just like as long as you use Logic or Pro Tools, like that all the software like can get you going into making extremely usable cool shit, and as long as you follow your gut instinct and your ears and try to make something that feels good and sounds great, you're gonna make something fucking cool. You know what I mean? So like that's where like I would love to see more awesome shit coming out, as opposed to just programmed electric fake drum stuff, because people are just using MIDI drums because they don't have a space to record drums and stuff. You know what I mean? So like yeah, that's the downside, but that's also like, you know, it's got an advantage and it's cool. So that would be my basic advice. Like just get the good stuff and just start going, you know?
So grab up like $1,000. Just get Logic or Pro Tools, get the Shure Drum mic pack, and get some preamps, and be on your way.
Yeah, and like there's a couple of good interfaces that have preamps in them, but ultimately like you could. I mean, I'm too advanced into the like building gear world that like I can't use cheap preamps because I'm like down to components and like if they're using the right like so. Ultimately, but when it comes down to like preamps, there's like 2% difference between things. You know what I mean? Like it's like such a subtle difference that like I don't even know why I like stress about it all the time. But yeah, so it's like as long as you get like some good preamps, which come in like you know, you could build some DIY Neve clones, things like that, like for like $300 a channel. That's a fucking great price, you know. So that's the route I've gone, and I would do exactly that again.
So what? Shit, man, you're going into all the detail. You're not leaving me any room for questions, man. You're doing it all.
I'm sorry, dude.
You're doing both our jobs.
I'm a nerd, dude.
So what? You said you started playing in a band, Nebulous. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, exactly.
And what did you play guitar?
Yeah, so I played guitar, and it was like my idol was Wes Borland.
Oh, nice. Okay,
that's
not a bad one, man.
Yeah. So Wes Borland and the dude from Incubus. So I was like all into guitar pedals. Like that was my fucking shit. So I made my own pedal board. I had like 20 pedals. I was like, when we would play local shows, people would just be like, look at that fucking dude's pedal board. You know what I mean? Like it was like a bragging right factor. But I actually like used it pretty well, and we made some like pretty whatever like riffs and songs. And so, but I always had like really good guitar tone. So dudes like in local bands would be cool with me, and that's kind of how they trusted me to like make their songs and like record some stuff, because like I had like naturally good gear, like good sounding stuff. Like they were like, when we would play, like people would be fucking impressed, because we would just only sit at our fucking house, practice all the goddamn time, write songs and practice the songs that we wrote. So when we'd play a show, we'd be hella fucking solid. You know what I mean? Like we weren't just like developing in front of people's eyes. Like we were actually like being a fucking cool band. So that was like how I got started ultimately. But I started like, you know, shifting through a few different bands, playing guitar for them and filling in like a few hardcore bands, like this band Sora, who was fucking heavy as fuck. Then I also started playing guitar for this band called Murder Parade, which was like a tech metal band, and that was some really cool stuff. And so eventually, like after doing all that, I was just recording all the bands, and Heavy needed someone to fill in on an Australia tour for Chip, so I was like, I'll fucking do it, I'll fucking go. So nice. That's kind of how I started playing with them, and that was the end of my touring days. Like I more so like had always been better at making records at home, and so that's why I do that still.
Yeah. Nice. See, I didn't even realize you toured with Heavy.
Yeah.
I just thought you were homies.
Yeah, Australia, dude.
Nice.
And I did the Horse the Band tour as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, that was a fucking crazy tour. With Dynamos, that was great, dude.
What was that?
With Dynamos, man, that was a great tour.
Oh yeah. Nice. Oh wait, so all three of those bands?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That Rue was telling me a little bit about that tour.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
I can imagine that being a weird, wild tour.
It was definitely wild, but it was like real fun. It was great times.
So usually I'll try to get in some good tour stories, but since I mean, I'm sure you got those too, but what about some good recording stories? Like I could go right into, I'm sure Heavy's got some goofy shit, but like any other bands, like just goofy kind of shit you get into, or just, you know, a good memory of like a good project you worked on that was super fulfilling. Like what do you when you look back on your career, what do you think? Like anything stand out?
Oh man, it's a blur of a lot of shit, man. I mean, I guess I mean making Turtle Nipple is always a funny one to think back to.
Yeah.
I remember hanging out with like one of my friends at the time, and I was like, I explaining to her who Heavy Heavy Lolo was and like what like I was about to make their new record and stuff. And I remember describing it as like it's gonna be really advanced because it's gonna be so punk that people aren't gonna really expect it right now. Like so
Yeah.
like it'll be a record that'll like maybe be appreciated 10 years from now. So I think we're coming up on like maybe 3 more years, or maybe it's been 10 years. So maybe that record would be cool again. But yeah,
Yeah.
I just remember like being real stoked about making that because I knew that we were gonna do like really fucked up weird shit, and I would
Yeah.
always look back at that record as like a hell of fucking sick sounding record that is like really cool and creative, which I still do, thankfully. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you should, man, because before we tour with them, I forget some buddies like passed along the earlier stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's fine or whatever. But then once we started watching them play and heard Turtle Nipple, I was like, what is this?
yeah,
Like this is this band. This shit is awesome.
yeah, totally. Yeah, it
I was
was
like,
just
this is the most punk, the most metal punk album, or the most punk metal album I've ever heard. Like, it's so good.
yeah. The I remember so like one of the funniest things about that record is that like the day we started that record was the day Halo 3 came out on Xbox.
Nice.
So they were literally binge playing Halo, all four of those dudes, and just like playing for like 24 hours a day. And like then I'd be like, yo, you guys want to go jam on some songs? And so like we were writing songs in the studio then. So all the songs are just like it's like just imagine playing Halo, and that's like how the songs feel. It's like very like spastic and like on edge and
Yeah.
like really like. So that was a pretty funny like experience. But I remember just being like, dude, can you guys stop playing? Like let's fucking make like hell of sick shit. You know what I mean? Like it was like it was like a week like straight of Halo. Like I'm not even joking. Like 24 hours a day Halo.
So, it actually brings me back to a question I was going to ask you earlier, but like, what do you think is like the optimal, you said earlier, 4 weeks for a full length. Like what in your mind is like the optimal time to like a full length record?
Yeah,
is
I
it
mean,
4 weeks? Is it 6 to 8 weeks? Is it longer?
It's 4 weeks with really no end date on mixing. You know what I mean? Like for
Yeah.
everyone to like really make sure that shit sounds great and to be able to like sit on it and actually like be stoked. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
as long as that like as long like it, otherwise you're like gonna make all this fun. You're gonna spend all this awesome time making all this awesome shit. And then in the end, you're gonna try to like fit it through a funnel, like you know what I mean, like in a
Yeah.
week, and just be like, okay, man, that was it, you know. So, I think that it's just like with people traveling and being so remote and stuff like that, it it makes time to leave a lot of open-ended timing for mixing to make it fucking awesome. So ultimately, like bands have like been real patient with me, where like when they leave, it's like, all right, man, like I'm gonna fucking mix this shit and we're gonna fucking make this awesome, and that takes a while because I got to record other bands too. You know what I mean? But
Right.
ultimately, like as long as the bands are patient and really want to make shit sick, we fucking come out with really awesome sounding shit. You know?
And are there any projects? I mean, you got a project in there right now, but are there any ones you can talk about, or ones you're excited about, or bands that you haven't worked with that you're like, yeah, I want to get with this band?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, there's been a bunch of really cool stuff that I did last year that's like all kind of getting wrapped up right now. Which is basically, first of all, I did some new singles with that band Hundredth. They're fucking
Okay.
like they're basically like a really cool. They were like a hardcore band at first, but
Yeah.
now they're becoming way more melodic, and like they have really awesome like guitar textures and really like uplifting melodies that just like are kind of melancholy and cool. So
Yeah.
I fucking love that band. Like they're some of the coolest dudes. Like that shit that we've been working on has been fucking awesome. Then there's this other band called Gardens, who's I mentioned them earlier. They're kind of like I would say like they're like the Pixies with like Jeff Tweedy from Wilco like on vocals. So it's like really fucking cool, man. And
Yeah.
it just really it makes you feel fucking awesome. Like remember
Yeah.
like you ever remember those bands like Hopes Fall and fucking
Sure.
It's kind of like that in terms of like really melodic awesome shit, but not as like heavy as that, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
But and also like not like that band's later stuff where they got like awkwardly cheesy and terrible, but you know like I'm referring more so to Satellite Era.
Yeah.
So that's a great fucking album. But yeah, so besides Gardens, there's like this cool like pop punk band called My Sweet Fall. They have a really fucking awesome vocalist, really cool songs. That's been another cool project. So I'm about to work on a band called American Lions from New Jersey. They're really awesome dudes, cool tones. Like they're just they're kind of a fun like party band.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been real cool to make. Like I'm really good at like artist development, I guess more so than just being like, all right, man, I'm gonna jump on and record Thrice's next record. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that would be like kind of weird. I'm more so like I'm more so a teammate and developer in that type of sense. So a lot of these projects are all like kind of brand new shit that like is getting steam as opposed to like being hell of sick hype worthy shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I mean, that's like the story so far as a classic example. Like that band was just like some 15-year-old kids in my neighborhood who like went to record with me because I recorded some bands in the area that they had heard of, and so they tried out some songs with me, and we made some fucking awesome songs. And now that band headlines Warped Tour and is like one of the biggest pop punk bands of touring right now. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
it's like fucking crazy. So like that's like I didn't like. That band didn't get huge, and then I jumped on their ship and like was like, "Yo, man, like I'm gonna make you guys awesome. Let's record now." You know what I mean? Like I've always been good at building bands from the ground up and making shit sick.
Yeah. So that's like the ideal situation, like getting a baby band, like working with them, putting out a good record and watching them hit it.
Absolutely, yeah, totally, man. And it's also fucking rewarding because like, I mean, every time that's ever happened, it's always been with the bands who are actually trying to make honest, creative, cool shit with their best friends. You know what I mean? There wasn't any fucking plug or any like step that they were able to like shortcut. Like they actually got there by just being honest, and that's the secret. You know what I mean? So like that's where I want bands to be more honest and in touch with themselves, because that's what those bands were.
Yeah. So don't worry about the end goal. Just put out something good.
Yeah, man. Just make songs you want to hear with your best friends. You know what I mean? Like that's what Heavy did. That's what Story did. That's what fucking Basement did. That's what fucking Saber Tooth Zombie did. Like I'm sure that's what you did. You know what I mean? Like and like that's the shit that means stuff to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I forgot to talk about this too, but you do. Or you have stuff online for like videos of bands playing in the studio, which is awesome because I love that shit. I love seeing bands do that.
So I mean, we fucking try to do that shit all the time, but like ultimately when we started doing that, I wasn't really recording that much. My video guys like weren't doing any video for anything, but like we all like ever since then, we've all picked up steam and we're fucking booked in hell of in advance, and it's hell of hard for us to do that.
Right.
So we actually just got like distribution like planned for that, so we have a few episodes that we're about to release, and we're scheduled to do some more.
That's awesome.
I'm thinking about even doing like a fucking interview podcast around it with
Hell
bands.
yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll like, but ultimately, I'm hella fucking busy too. So I'm trying to like, I like my passion is making cool, awesome fucking shit. So, but I also have to work extremely hard and get bills paid and continue to pay off debt. You know what I mean? So like,
and sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And sleep and hang out with my fucking fiance.
There you go.
And so yeah, like, life is just there's not enough fucking time in the day, man. I'd love to do more.
And thinking of the video stuff, there reminded me that you did stuff with Duck Duck Goose or Pollution People too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because those are our homies too. So
yeah, man.
I forgot about that.
That was a fucking sick ass band that should have like done. I thought that they were like right at the tail end as like Daughters was having steam and the Locust was killing it, and like Heavy was like dropping steam and like starting an Outlaw tour, and so like that band was like fucking awesome, and I saw like them continuing to carry the torch, but I don't know, things just fell apart. I don't really know why, like, but that's a fucking good band. They were.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that we I think just played a random show with, and then we tried to get them on more dates, and I think they just couldn't do it. But I was like, why is this band not huge? Like they're awesome.
Yeah, I think that they
had a good live show.
They had like some label contract that they were in that like held them or something like that, something weird like that.
Yeah, but that was just I totally forgot about when I thought about the video stuff. I was like, oh yeah, shit, you did them too. So
yeah, that band was fucking awesome, man. I wish they did more shit.
Yeah. Well, shit, man. I think you've like answered every possible question I could think of. What if there's? I don't even know. If there's anything you want to plug or even things you want to throw out there, or talk about for what you do. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, what else do you do in the day? I mean, when you do have a free minute, aside you hang out with your fiance, do you have time for a hobby?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't have any friends. I don't have any hobbies. Ultimately, like me and my fiance, like we fucking love hanging out with like our friends and our like couple friends, you know, who are
Yeah.
like married and engaged or whatever, and like
Hell yeah.
we love. It's basically like if we could sit at a cool location, have a nice beer, and like be best friends with someone, like that's what we're down with. So like going out to Australia and hanging out with our Australian friends and like having pub life is like the fucking coolest thing for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're people in that type of way. Like we love hanging out with cool creative people, and all of our friends like all of our awesome friends are also like really fucking, you know, talented and driven, and like so they move to really cool places to do really cool jobs. So we always have ever changing, evolving friendships and lots of, you know,
Nice.
locational friendships. But yeah, man, like I love my fiance. She's awesome. She's a fucking neuropsychologist. So
Damn.
yeah, she
Smart cookie.
yeah, so she's a doctor. So she's
Yeah.
fucking she's awesome. So ultimately, like I just try to hang with her as much as I can, and then we're about to buy a house right now out here. That's
Nice,
fucking
man.
that's
Congrats.
probably thanks, man. That's probably the most stressful thing ever. It makes me feel like such an inadequate human being. I need to raise so many funds that I do not know how it's gonna happen, but whatever, you know.
Every part of it does, like getting married, buying a house, having a baby. Every part of it's like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. But ultimately, we're all just always winging it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So, like,
That's
you
right,
just
man.
fucking wing it, and so
I think as long as you can say that and be okay, like, you know what, my parents did that too. Like,
Yeah.
I can look at my parents and think they knew what they were doing, but they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah,
so
no,
like,
totally.
none of us really do. So
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
I was thinking about that this morning, like the word expert. Like who actually calls himself an expert? Like
Yeah.
that's like the most douche thing in the world. You know what I mean? Especially because we're all
Yeah.
just winging it. You know what I mean? Like how could
Yeah.
you be an expert at winging it? At
Yeah.
this one specific thing all day. You know what I mean? Like if anything, like you're experienced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that'll be on your tombstone. The expert at winging it, comma best friend,
Yeah,
best friend to
exactly.
all.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, I wish I had more hobbies. I mean, all my fucking hobbies are audio related. You know what I mean? Like, I love making gear. I love fucking getting drum sounds. I just dialed in a hell of goddamn sick guitar tone right now. Like that's my shit. You know. And so,
Yeah.
I love weed. I love beer. Um,
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like you
Yeah.
do what you love.
yeah, man.
You can have it all there.
That's about it, man. I mean, I'm a big advocate for the sativas, man. I mean, I'm like
Yeah.
super ADHD, and it tunnel visions me and just drives me and focuses me. Whereas like otherwise, like I'm just like I got too much anxiety and like things going on in my head where like
Yeah.
when I smoke, I focus and I just get into it. So I could if I'm smoking a joint, I can be rocking for 14 hours a day, like not a problem.
So I'll end on this little. I don't even know if I've told this on an episode before, but so I've never smoked, really never done any of that. But
Yep.
like we went on our own tour. I think it was just us, and we went down and played this place in Houston called Super Happy Funland or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like some big open room they converted. It's like not a venue that they turned into a venue, and
Okay.
it's kind of cool, but whatever. So we played, and I had like a messenger bag that had my gear in it, and I left it there. And I had like an iPod Classic. I mean, this was like 2007 or something.
Got it.
But I left it in there. And I called them back when we get home. I said, hey, can you send me back the bag, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, cool. Because I think I had my laptop, it had all kinds of stuff. And they send back the bag and it has everything but the iPod. And in place of the iPod is a bag of salvia.
Oh my god, dude.
And I just pull that out, and I'm like, did they just like Indiana Jones me, like swap like the amount of weight for the other one? And it was just like a bag of all these different kinds. And I was with the guys in the band. I was like, I don't even know what the fuck this is. Like, what is this? And I called them like, no, we didn't see anything about an iPod. So I don't know if they bullshitted me or if somebody nabbed it and then they found the bag or whatever the case is. But I was just like, I can't. What am I supposed to do with this shit?
Salvia. That's so crazy, dude. I've seen some crazy fucking experiences of people smoking salvia in my actual
And
life.
that's what I've heard, man. I handed off to Adam, who played bass in the band, and he had himself a good time with a couple of our buddies. But like, I was just like, I don't even know what to make of this situation.
Yeah. Holy shit, man. Yeah, I've never like I've only smoked weed, and I've done shrooms before, which was
Yeah.
like the best experience of my life, I think. But yeah, I mean, like I'm just like a very casual smoker. Like I don't smoke to get high. I smoke just because like it just focuses me, and I just love weed.
All right. And on that, I love weed.
I love weed, dude.
Well, thanks for doing this, man, especially
man.
last minute like
Absolutely,
this.
man. Not a problem, bro.
And what's the band you're recording again right now? We can do a shout out for them.
Yeah, they're called Fighting Sides. They're fucking awesome, man. They're from Georgia, but they moved out to LA because they're hell of dead serious about their band and they're trying to make shit awesome. So they're great. Awesome songwriters, cool band. They'll have some singles out at some point.
Awesome, man. Well, good luck with everything. Buying the house, recording the 1,000 bands, doing all your shit, man.
Life, dude. I'm just trying to make shit awesome, dude.
When you start your podcast, shoot me a message and I'll plug it. I'll
man.
Get everybody to go over to it and listen to it.
Hell yeah, I highly appreciate that. I'll link you. I'll upload this file on Dropbox and I'll link it to you.
Awesome, man.
Hell yeah.
All right, man.
Well, thanks for being the man, dude.
Thank you. Thank you for being my new best friend.
You got it, dude. Cheers, bro.
Yeah, take it easy, buddy.
Peace, man.
Swiftly and lightly break up the lost ground and see what you don't see.